How do you react to the decision that was overturned for the protest?
Well, I think it's a real failing in government if they have to conduct industrial relations through the courts. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. It's a waste of their time. It's a waste of our time. If they were willing to engage and engage meaningfully prior to the courtroom, then we wouldn't have been in that mess yesterday.
And how did that make you feel when you heard the decision?
I mean, we all expected it. It was quite a feat to stave it off until around quarter to four, half four. Usually, when we've taken protest action before, there'll be an injunction served in the morning. So it was only a 24-hour protest from midnight the night before until midnight yesterday. So in effect, we finished our action around 6 o'clock. So we missed 6 hours, in which time nothing would have happened anyway. So the impact of our protest was felt in the core day from 8 till around 6. That's where the biggest impact was felt. So it was great for us.
And what will your plan of action be now?
So we set out our aims, and our primary aim was to meet with the Secretary of State, Liz Truss, because we didn't feel that the National Offender Management Service was listening to it. They offered long-term solutions to our health and safety issues, which is fine. We accept them, and we accept them with open arms. The issue that we have is the here and now to solving health and safety issues, and particularly stopping violence to both prisoners and prison officers. So that's what the action was around. We had a remedy in place that the employer NOMs were not willing to listen to. So now we've got one meeting with the Secretary of State where we'll put this remedy to her.
When will this meeting occur?
We got a guarantee that from yesterday it would be 48 hours. So it should be by the end of tomorrow.
When you go into UK prisons now, what goes through your mind?
Well, I made a statement yesterday when I was interviewed by the media. I came from the army and I served in Northern Ireland, and I felt less vulnerable walking the streets of Northern Ireland than I do some of the landings in the prisons. It is that volatile and that concerning because there's so many weapons. There's prisoners with mental health issues. There's prisoners who use psychoactive substances. So, they are volatile pressure cookers.
And how many UK prisons protested yesterday?
There was around 10,000 officers out up and down the country. There's around 119 penal establishments. So it was a massive success and supported by the members. It's obviously very raw to the members. That's why they turned out en masse so well.
And do you feel that if there's no need for change, what would you do then? How would you go about that course of action?
Well, again, we'll have to consider. We would have to meet as a national executive to consider the strategy going forward. But our primary role is to protect our members like they were family members. So we would again try to engage the management, try to come to a resolution about our concerns. There is like a flow chart you'll follow, but you might have different strands of strategy to adopt next time. So I guess what I'm saying is there's no hard and fast strategy. You will form it with whatever information you've got around at the time.
I remember Mike Rolfe
The national chairman.
he said in the with the BBC when they interviewed him that he himself would go to jail to fight this. How strongly he feels about this, and if they came to you threatening you with this, how would you feel about that? How would you go about that?
Well, ultimately, we're a national executive committee, and when the injunction's ordered, if we do not comply with that injunction, then one of the the penalty is imprisonment. And if we feel strong enough, if we hadn't felt that we achieved our objectives yesterday, we would have potentially, if they wanted to push it that far, the courts and government, ended up in jail. You know, that is a consequence of what we were doing yesterday.
Do you think about that?
I do think about it, but you know, I'm so involved in don't take it for granted and understand what prison officers are going through, because I'm a serving prison officer myself. So yes, I would happily go to prison if it saw an end to the violence towards prisoners and towards staff. There are some, I use the quote, a bad law needs breaking, and that is a bad law for trade unionists not to be able to take strike action to defend their members.
And what do you think about the public when, obviously, you know, with Pentonville escapees, you know, with the pressure that's happening with you guys and the government? Like, what do you think the public, what do you think we think?
Well, I think the public now, because of all the media, through TV, through social media, are now more understanding of what a prison officer does on a day-to-day. They understand the implications of bad regimes on prisoners, and they understand that we do a very, very difficult job. So there appears to be sympathy for prison officers now. Yesterday, when we took our action, a lot of local businesses were supplying refreshments to our members. And, you know, I hate to mention a big chain, but Domino's Pizzas sent round 10 large pizzas to one of our branches, which is, you know, that would have been unheard of years ago. Prison officers were betrayed as racist thugs, and we're just so not that breed anymore, you know. We're not all 10 feet tall with tattoos all over our fists. We're just normal working men and women that care about the job we do.
So the public and communities do sympathise with you, and they do know the job you're doing. It's very difficult.
I don't think that they won't know the job in its entirety, because some things will never come beyond the walls, but I think there is an understanding now of how difficult a role it is and how complex it is. Like I say, you know, we lock up people with mental health issues that should not be in jail. They should be in hospitals, but there aren't enough hospital beds. And ultimately, I suppose, you know, prisons in one way or another save the NHS money. And that's never thought about by the public, but that's what we do, you know. We're so adaptable in our day-to-day jobs.
Can you recall an experience whilst you were an officer in any prisons where you had to fight off an inmate or you got abuse?
Yeah, on quite a lot of occasions. Unfortunately, I worked in a prison which is a category B training prison, so we got a lot of gang culture. I've been in the job 24, coming up to 25 years. We go through, or we have gone through different stages. So we had various gangs just under different labels. But London gangs at the minute are prevalent around southeast jails. So what happens outside the jail then gets replicated inside. So, you know, years ago it wasn't, you wouldn't see somebody using a knife on another prisoner. It would be like society. You would have fisticuffs and then it would be over. And now you see prisoners getting murdered. You know, when I first joined the job, never ever heard of prison, or very rarely a prisoner would get murdered. Now it's, unfortunately, it's, you know, we had in the space of 3 weeks, from the 24th of October through till the 11th of November, we had 15 deaths in custody. Now they weren't all murders, some of that would have been self-inflicted, but that demonstrates how prisons are at the minute. Staff haven't got time to create meaningful relationships, meaningful professional relationships with prisoners. Prisoners are using drugs, you know. It all impacts on the atmosphere within, and it is just at crisis point.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.